Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome back. I know you were here not too long ago, a few days ago actually. So thank you guys so much for coming on to the show. I really do appreciate it. So for those that don't know what the show is about, hi, my name is Lizzie from AnimeInkArt, and we talk with different creators in the community about their journey in content creation, how we can support each other. I hope you guys had a good Friday. For those that are off because they get off from their jobs, I hope it was a productive day. For those that still worked, I hope it was still a good day. So we're gonna have a great show tonight. So today we have very special guest, Robbie J Atkinson, and they are an amazing, filmmaker, writer, author. They are the founder of RPX Media. So that's a hybrid media production company. Not only do they deal in, magna and magna production, they also do film, and they also delve into graphic novels as well. They do a lot of things when it comes to the film and the comic industry, and as well as they have their own organization as well, and they are also the creator of the Seven Kingdom, which is an amazing magna under RPX Media. So definitely let's get them on the show and let's get it started. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I had a full day today. I was just at Stevenson Elementary presenting for the career day, and the
Mhm.
kids were so excited. I gave away copies of the book, and they had a lot of fun. It was great.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you're able to, teach the younger generation that may be interested in what you're doing. I think that's always amazing and like a full circle moment.
Mhm, mhm. Me too, me too. It's an honor, honestly. I got invited onto their morning show one time, and so I just made a brief little appearance. And my friend Phil reached out to me and was just like, "Hey, like they really want to talk to you more. So would you be interested in coming?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Um, and so, he was talking about how he could tell the kids were very inspired and they had a lot of good questions. And a lot of them wanted to know, like, wait, yeah, I didn't know that this was a career, a potential career opportunity. And so it was, it was a chance to kind of open the kids' eyes and also just like engage them with pop culture because a lot of kids know and like anime, and
Mhm.
so you make them aware that like that is art and that
Yeah.
is ELA and that is philosophy even, or if it's science fiction that integrates parts of science, like when you can tell them things like that, or even social studies, you're learning geography and biomes and things, and that goes into world building. It when it clicks for them, it's really amazing. So
Definitely. And I wanted to start off with because you do so many things and you're so talented. And I wanted to ask, what got you into, film specifically and just storytelling in that way?
mm, um gosh, my start really came from my childhood. I actually my late father, like every maybe like twice a month, if not at least once a month, on a Saturday typically, I would be at the house, doing my thing, and dad would come running upstairs and he'd say, "Hey kiddo, you want to go watch a movie?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And he'd say, "All right, go on Regal Cinemas and go pick a movie, and we'll go and look at a time and we'll go and watch it." And we would go and watch the movies. It became just like a daddy daughter thing that we did every so often. And dad had a degree in psychology, so after that, we'd come back home, and in the car ride home, he would say to me, "So, what do you think about that character? And what about that really cool power that they did?" He loved Marvel, especially like X-Men and Spider-Man, and so some of those like early 2000s movies, we would talk and have discussion about them. And it was a moment where I got to get lost in imagination and, suspension of disbelief. And then I think that was a moment where dad got in touch with like his inner child too. And I think that his influence and his like introducing me to film and to different genres and varieties of music kind of just inevitably put me down that path, because we used to watch special features of DVDs. Remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you remember, like, you would have the menu and you'd like go over
Yeah.
the play button to like special features and you click it, and they would have interviews of like the director, the actors would actors and actresses would show like their rehearsal tapes or their audition tapes,
Mhm.
in the studio, and then how the character was like being carried on strings as they float into frame. And I saw all of that growing up, and I think I couldn't help but like film. I couldn't help but want to go into it. So
That's amazing. And I actually wanted to ask, what got you like serious into making it a career and, starting RPX Media, because you've been able to do a lot of different things and, making your comic as well through this company. So what inspired you to, take it seriously and then create RPX Media?
Truth be told, I was actually very afraid to start my business. Um,
Mm,
at the time, I remember working in the K-pop industry,
hmm.
and it was before COVID, so it was about like 2018, right
Yeah.
before
Hmm.
2019 hit. When they were saying they were noticing some strange flu-like symptoms, right?
Yeah.
We had a name for it, but I remember around that time just really working hard with like K-pop work because I also
Hmm.
in that industry. I did concert videography,
Yes.
and when I saw that company, there were a lot of things that I observed about it, but one of the things that caught my attention was that this company was comprised of like 7 girls who were like I was me and 2 other people, maybe 3 other people were probably the oldest. Um,
Hmm.
the rest of them were in their 20s. They ranged throughout their 20s, and they would work their day jobs. And then in the evenings, we would all drive to this one location, meet in someone's apartment complex. Sometimes that's where we had the business meetings. And they would plan and say, okay, so I have connections to this person who says this artist wants to come to Atlanta.
Hmm.
They want someone to help them arrange their concert. How can we do this? And these 7 girls would together plan out how to pay for this, how to secure a guarantee, figure out how to get a venue, would start thinking about the marketing materials. It was loosely organized, but all the same, there was very much the sense of like determination that they all had. And I remember seeing that and kind of just being very impressed by it. And so I thought to myself, so if these girls can do it, then I can do it. And I can pull together a team and we can film whatever. Cause I had been itching to explore film that was a little bit more artistic because at this point they were allowing me a lot of creative freedom, but it was very
Hmm.
much like, okay, we're going to work with this artist. They sent us all these music videos, edit it together, show us something, and if they like it, cool. If they don't, then we're gonna have to re-edit from scratch, which used to happen. But I wanted to tell a story, and I wanted to be an auteur, as they say in film school. Um, and so when I saw that, and then the pandemic hit, and concerts came to a halt inevitably
Hmm.
because of that, it was a
Yeah.
perfect opportunity to start my business. And I actually even remember my mom scolding me when I went to visit her. She was kind of just like, "You're pouring all this work into someone else's business, and you could be doing this for
Mm.
yourself." And I
Hmm.
said,
You're like,
"Wow."
like, wait a minute.
Like, oh. And so I gave it a try. And actually, just the other day, I was at an event and someone saw me from before I
Hmm.
started my business, and they said, "Oh my God," they said, "there was a time when you were just talking about starting your business and you were afraid to." And he said, "Look at you now. Look at the growth." So yeah.
Definitely. And it's very exciting because like when I was reading that like you were like one of the first like black videographers to cover like all the different like internationally, especially for K-pop.
Mhm.
And now for your company, you've worked with like other clients such as, Kung Fu Tea, Cafe Blue, the Atlantic Jewish Film Festival. And like you said, you've worked with other artists, across the globe, especially for Korean entertainment, like dot K2, Mount 10, and Peacemaker for people that are like very into K-pop, like they've collaborated with, like BTS, Jessie, and everything like that. And you have a very diverse team that not only covers that type of content, but for your graphic novels, and you have different illustrators across 4 countries, like 4 countries, so US, Japan, UK, and South Korea. And I would just want to say, first and foremost, that is not an easy feat, especially, how long you've been, around, like since 2019, in these 6 years, you've been able to work not only nationally, but internationally. So I just want to commend you for that first and ask, what was it like, when you first started? You already had the experience, I know, but to be able to work with all these different companies, what was the process like to get to the point where you are now? Where were some of the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Mm. I would say the process was one that was forged by oh, various extensive pain. uh, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, kind of. But like, I would say that I had to learn discernment, because you can have a lot of people who like the idea of working with you. You can
Mhm.
have people who see the value of what you're doing and they see the prestige of it, or they just like the sound of it. They like how it makes them look and they want to align themselves with you.
Mhm.
Not everyone who wants to work with you needs to work with you. And you
Mhm.
have to figure out who to trust. And when you trust, there's a period of time where I trusted the wrong people sometimes with my work and my projects, and
Mhm.
that backfired. I trusted the wrong client. Sometimes I was busy trying to instill trust from in my clients, and they were not doing anything to build trust with me. And so then when we got burned, it was like, oh, um and so learning to, hi Midnight Comics. God,
They're always here to support.
I appreciate y'all. This is, yeah. So I would say that it I had to learn to hone my discernment so that I could know who to trust to bring on my team. And you see, the common mistake that some people make is they'll trust the wrong person, or they'll bring people in and maybe they're simply misaligned, maybe they're not as interested, maybe interest fades, maybe they have ulterior motives, whatever it is. And then
Mhm.
when they get burned, then they say, okay, I'm not doing that ever again, like never again.
Mhm.
They try to shoulder everything themselves,
Yeah.
exhaust themselves, burn out, bottleneck their growth, all of these things. The harder lesson is to learn how to figure out who to trust. That way you do a better job of onboarding people and a better job of filtering people. And that way you stop the duds. I hate to refer to them that way, but you stop the duds before they go too far. And that's something that I learned even as recently as like this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I would say has been a major lesson for me.
That's awesome. And I also wanted to talk about how, and I believe it was 2024 when you got to do like your film, like, directorial film debut with your short psychological horror, like short film, Kalimba. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, you did.
And and you've won a few awards. You've been in multiple festivals, not only, locally, but, internationally as well, and was a winner. I believe it was like the Seoul Film Festival as well.
Yeah, Seoul Film Festival. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, what was it like first to be able to, you've been doing, different things in the filming industry, media industry already, and to do, a short film debut. How was that experience for you, first off? And what inspired Kalimba and the production of it?
Mm. So I would say first the feeling was I think, when you're traveling and you're flying to a destination that maybe you've
Mhm.
like never been to before. I'm one of those people where like when you're on the plane, it doesn't
Yeah.
hit you that you're just like, okay, I'm on the plane. It doesn't hit you until you arrive in the country, you look out the window and you're like, wow, this is
Feel
not
like I'm here.
right. And that is kind of how I'd say this process like felt in terms of getting some of those awards. It was just like, okay, cool. All right, cool. It got into this film festival. All right. And it's like, oh, we won. Okay. All right, so we won an award. All right, cool. And what most people don't know is that sometimes the proportion of attempts is actually much greater than the results. And people
Mhm.
see the result and they say, oh, okay, cool. And they don't know. Like I had gone through quite a couple festivals that I'd really, really wanted to get into and we didn't get into them. I was a little
Mhm.
bit sad. And then, just when you'd get a little bit like, oh, then something would come up. And so when we got our premiere at Buried Alive Film Festival, um, people could come up to me and say the lighting was beautiful. Like I didn't know what to say because while I directed the film, it was
Yeah.
the camera crew that I said to them, "Hey, I like these colors. Can we try to do?" And they made it look like a sunset inside of a room. However,
Mhm.
we pulled that magic off. And so when people said the lighting was beautiful, I was like, "Thank you." But I'm the wrong person to talk to. Talk to the camera crew. I guess it's everyone's like creative vision that comes together, and so it was a strange, like, just like you beside yourself in a way. Like you're kind of digesting all of this happening because it was my first time ever having my creative work recognized like that.
Mhm.
Um, and then forgive me, what was the other question?
Oh, what was the inspiration to create the film? And for those that may not know what it's about, if you want to share like a short synopsis.
Mm. So Kalimba is essentially a psychological horror short about a sheltered young woman who has these terrifying nightmares on a nightly basis. And basically being tormented by them, she decides to seek answers from the family black sheep to figure out what is the source behind these nightmares, really before reality and
Mm,
dream begin to collide.
mhm.
And I would say this was inspired partly by some personal experiences. Most of what I make is there's some degree of personal
Yeah.
experience. Um, I come from a family and a culture, being Jamaican American,
Mhm.
where there's a cultural belief, and not all Jamaicans believe this, but certain ones who kind of came from the countryside, or certain ones who saw certain things, had a belief that like you have to be very careful what you accept from people. When people give you gifts, clothes, even food, you don't take any and everything from anybody, and that is because there's the idea that you don't know what that person's into, you don't know their intention, you don't know, you understand. And so from certain cultural contexts, I kind of took those ideas and put them into the story of Kalimba. We have a girl who is kind of torn between two different types of people in her family, someone who does not believe in those kinds of things, and then someone who very much does, as they're trying to figure out what's going on. And the opening sequence to the feature script, because the short film is just a proof of concept of the feature itself,
Mhm.
and the opening scene of the feature script, the feature screenplay, it was inspired by a dream that I had that was
Mm.
so terrifying that, that I like woke up and was disturbed, and then after I calmed down, then I kind of went and wrote it down, and I said, all right. And dad, being again someone who had a degree in psychology, always said to me, whenever you have a dream, write it down, because you never know how that can be useful. And so I used to write those dreams down, and then I kind of said, let me see what I can do with this. So yeah.
I mean, that's amazing, and just the way that you were able to like express it, through the film, and then just all of your storytelling. You like to let people think about like what's going on in the world, their existence, like what matters to them. I know that's like the theme, and I also learned that like the name of the company is like it has like a meaning, especially like the like like the name itself. So I wanted you to share that because I feel like it goes into like what you may talk about when it comes to the Seven Kingdom and everything like that.
Yes, so Zhiqing the Paishi, my tones might have been a bit off, but so I speak Mandarin, and Mandarin is one of a couple languages that I know, and Zhiqing the Paishi actually means to film, and Zhiqing actually means like with determination. So it literally translates to the idea of filming, capturing a story with vigor or with determination. And that is something that I think very much drives the company and drove my vision and my inspiration behind a lot of our creative projects, is being able to tell a story with a kind of intensity or even subtlety that really makes people dive deep into their emotions and dive deep into their thought process, and dive deep into their inner recesses of their mind, if not society itself.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
I mean, I think it's amazing that like you had that planned out, like with the name, and then I feel like it just reminds you of like the work that you're doing already.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. And shout out to those that are in the stream right now, giving like different things to speak on, for different things as well. That's amazing. And I thank you so much for that. I always try to make sure, like, whether I acknowledge you through talking or, just through the text, I really do appreciate when you guys come in.
Mm.
And also, I wanted to talk about, your Magna, the Seven Kingdom. And I know because you have your blog page where, you share different things, whether it's for your stories or for the company as well. And you did touch upon people asking you that. And I could imagine because, people that may know you just from the film industry, but those that know you, in the comic and Magna space, we know that you love those things. We know you're a blurred, but how was it when you first introduced, that you were writing the story for people that may have not known that you were going to do it? And if you want to answer, because I did see like your reasoning for why you created it, why did you create the Seven Kingdom and what inspires you to create the Seven Kingdom and to add Magna to your company?
Mm. So honestly, publication and really animation was something that I wanted to go in the direction of anyways, because RPX was supposed to do it had like a three-pronged approach in terms of like the more cinematic features, the more commercial films, and then something along the lines of animation. And to me, when I did my research, realizing that manga was a kind of a first natural step for a lot of anime adaptations. And I said, okay, well, then let's start with that and let's build the following for it. And so when because okay, so here's the thing is like I didn't really announce it, and I'm also just I'm one of those people where like I just believe you do first and then tell people.
Yeah, it's okay.
What? And people were so surprised. Which, by the way, thank you, Midnight Comics. But yeah, so I kind of just showed up, and some of the some people were kind of like, wait, who is she? What is she? Where did she come from? Did she draw that? Like what? A lot of people. Oh, like yeah. And that has been its own interesting experience because like
Yeah.
going to conventions and
Mm-hmm.
kind of I went to one convention and like the other vendors around me were kind of like looking and you could see them like
Mm.
their neck and they're kind of like, who, what? And they see people walking away with these boxes. I call them boxes. They're like, but what's in the box? And so they come over and they're like, can I buy one? And they like open the box immediately and they're like looking and they're like, just I've had a variety of experiences.
It is weird, like
yeah. And then I was just telling my aunt about some lovely experiences that I had because and it's kind of in a way the comic space is a bit like the film industry. I dare say the film industry is way more like intense. I say the comic and like the author space, artist space is like very giving, very kind. In film, on film sets, the larger film sets, because I worked on set for like I worked on set for what was it? There was a set that I worked on. It was I don't know if I should say the name, but I will say this. They had a rule that like
yeah.
if you were in the way, and I think most film sets are like this, but they had a rule that like if you were in the way, the camera department's moving, they're gonna hit you with their cart. They may say points, which is what they say if they have a pointy object on the cart. But if you don't hear it, you just get run over. And that's it. Over the cart. Sit right under the cart. They don't care. But like the author and the artist community is a little more like you're sitting at your table and they come up to you and they're like, would you like an orange? And it's like, yes, thank you. Like very kind and they have more of a sense of community. And so the responses have been wide and far, but all the same, I've been having fun with it. So
it's amazing. And for those that may not know what the story is about, if you want to talk about it, because the art and everything like that is it's so good. It's so good.
Thank you. Gosh, so the Seventh Kingdom is a sci-fi fantasy seinen series. So for the people who love Berserk or they loved Cowboy Bebop, or if you loved Pluto or if you loved Monster, seinen genre, meaning it's going to be dark, it's going to be heavy. But basically our main character has a fateful encounter with an entity named the Seventh Kingdom, leaves her wanting clarity, leaves her wanting answers, also revenge. And as she travels across the fictional planet to basically get all of those answers, she ends up colliding with some really dark revelations along the way that threaten to kind of derail her along her process. Yet again, she has to collide with those dark revelations. So I tell people that I was very much inspired by like the intensity of Attack on Titan, that feeling of like no one's safe, not even the horse. And the kind of just the tone and the feel, sometimes the sentiment or even the heaviness of like Cowboy Bebop, but still also that kind of sci-fi vibe of Cowboy Bebop, and then some of the fantasy elements that you may see like in Berserk. Putting all that together with the bang of JJK, and then you have this,
And I love that because I also know that you have your blog series where you share different tidbits, especially for the series. And I love the inspirations that you had. The one you just mentioned, and I know AOT, and there was another one. So I want to say, when it came to inspirations, what was the feel that you wanted people to have when they read the story?
I wouldn't say that I wanted it to. I wouldn't say that I wanted it to emulate.
No, of course not. It's just like an inspiration.
Yes. But I would say that the way you watch Cowboy Bebop and sometimes the smallest details give you the heaviest feelings. Sometimes it's just a frame, it's a shot.
Mm,
Sometimes it's just that scene of Spike fighting Vicious in the
mm,
cathedral with like the stained glass behind them, like
yeah.
that feel of either like the imagery is beautiful and you kind of have this moment where you see the beauty in the imagery and the beauty in like, or maybe the beauty in the irony, and
Mhm,
the beauty in the depth of the moment. I wanted to create a series that was able to replicate that, not necessarily the
mm.
same tone, but like
Oh,
that
yeah.
concept. Um, and so Cowboy Bebop was a very heavy influencer. And then I later found out that the writer of a number of the episodes that I liked in Cowboy Bebop, her name was Keiku Nobumoto, and
Mm,
she also wrote, I think, parts of Pluto. She
mm,
also started working on Lazarus, and then I think she passed away from like throat cancer. But
mm.
a lot of projects I found that I liked, and so kind of looking at that has been very insightful for me.
That's amazing. And something that's very interesting, like you're very like interactive with the community, especially like with promoting the series, and you've had different events and different like little things like to promote people to buy the book as well. And I think the most creative thing I saw was the secret page where they have like the collectible cards and they can like play games and stuff. So can you share that? I think that's really cool to do. And what inspired you to do it?
So the secret page token is essentially a collectible card that fans will get, and it was supposed to align with the release of various volumes of the manga,
Mhm.
and that is essentially a way for fans to go even deeper into interacting with the series itself. It's one thing to just like reading it; it's another to maybe collect merch, have like a sticker, maybe a shirt. It's another. I consider figurines a whole different level, but then it's another to be able to like engage with the series and the material outside of the book and maybe not necessarily in person.
Mhm.
And so having ways to kind of discover tidbits and things about the series is essentially what that is, but it's gamified. And because the series relies so heavily on a sense of mystery,
Mhm.
really integrating that sense of mystery into that interactive element online as well. And I was inspired to do it because like I love games, man. I don't game like I used to. Like I still
Yeah.
have my PlayStation set at home, and I'll de-stress and play like, I don't know, Ape Escape, or maybe I'll pop up my PlayStation 2, that oldie,
Oh.
and play a Dead or Alive or something. But I just like the adventure of having some other way to leap into the world of your story. And
Mhm.
so I kind of thought to myself, like, okay, well, would I be bored if I did this? Or, and I kind of just gauge it from there and just try to make it as detailed as possible. Because you know how some people like
Mhm.
miniature sets, like those little
Yeah.
like microscopic, and they like to put like the little bread loaf on top of the little like lettuce and the tomato, like how people love those details, kind of giving people details like that to really dive into, kind of obsess about in a way.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. And also, you were able to collaborate with a cosplayer for your character, and you got to go to like a few conventions, and to promote the series. How did it? For first off, how did it feel to see somebody bring your character to life? You
Oh,
know?
I again, it's like that, like you're on the plane, and when you land, you look out the window, and it's like the whole time you're on the plane, you're kind of, because we've been talking about it, and so when Miko showed up in full outfit, and
Mhm.
Miko was so sweet. Miko was apologizing because Miko was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
I could have done more." And I was like, "Are you kidding?" Like I called the fans over, and they like ran over. One of them even messaged me a whole photo shoot with her, and he messaged me after the event, and he was like, "This was awesome." And that was so surreal to me. It had been recommended that we try to see about having people cosplay the characters more, and I'd been talking to influencers about that anyways.
Mhm.
So to finally see that happen was like, I'd had like no words. I still have no words. I like look back at the video and I'm like, yeah, that really happened, man.
And you also got to do your first signing as well, and some of your copies were at Oxford Comics and Critical Records. How was that feeling?
That was also interesting because like, you put your comic down on the shelf and you look beside you and you see like Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
and you look like a couple rows down and you see Spider-Man, and it was so strange for me because um I guess I think to myself, like, my dad was someone who he was also very much into Spider-Man, and some of the things I've seen, like these cons, these figurines and things, I'm like, if dad was alive, he would have loved this. And like just the surreal, it's surreal. It's surreal, I guess. And I kind of just think to myself, like, wow. But I'm grateful. I'm incredibly grateful, you know. This is the base of the mountain.
That's awesome. And also, I just wanted to congratulate you for being published in I pronounced that city wrong. Samira Vining's Lifestyle, like the magazine. They highlighted your work, you know, and your career. And I know that that was like a full circle moment for you, especially, you know, growing up there and then being recognized. So how was that opportunity? How did that motivate you going forward?
Um, that was crazy. Because when Blake reached out to me, when Burke reached out to me, I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm open to it. And then, you know, actually he like went quiet for a little bit and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. And then we finally made it happen. And like he actually getting to do a photo shoot for it too. Um, I don't know, man. Some of the stuff is, I'm like, oh, that happened too. Um, in a sense of almost like disbelief, but in a way too, I think that, I think it was a good opportunity and I'm really grateful for it. But then I also had like kids come up to me and say, "Hey, we saw you in this magazine. I know you." And I'm like, "Who, me? You hide me?" So I don't know, man. A lot of the things that have happened have left me so starstruck that I guess I still haven't really processed the feeling behind it. But I'm really grateful though, because it just everything, every little brick that's laid down through our community help, all of that helps the bigger vision. So
It's definitely true. And for those that may not know about like some of the services, kind of for your, you know, production company, you have like a lot of different, you know, services and things that you offer. So for those that may not know, if you want to share a little bit.
yes. I mean, we, in truth be told, we changed it because we used to do videography. We used to do
Yeah.
videos.
Hmm.
And more or less, I paused the music video aspect. Well, the last music video we did was with a group named After Dark.
Hmm.
And after that, I kind of just paused that to go more into telling stories that we wanted. I've had people come to me with scripts and ask me to direct it.
Hmm.
And at the time, people didn't have the budget to do so.
Hmm.
So most of our services have really paused in that aspect of film, and we've been more so focused on like the products themselves, and then we'll dilly dally between the two as that stability rises. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And especially about the merch, for those that may not know what merch you have, I think it's pretty cool from the bookmarks I saw, from the, you know, the different stationery, you know, the mugs on top of the comics as well. So for those that may not know what the different type of merch you have to get people excited about the story as well.
yes. I mean, we've got acrylic key rings, we've got bookmarks, we've got stickers, we even had magnets at some point, and really, sometimes we'll have shirts, sometimes we'll have buttons, and we're kind of just working on the inventory now. That's really what I've had this whole time, and like poster prints, and people have been really, really receptive to it. So
It's true. And also, I love that you've been able to educate, you know, those that want to go into the same career path as you've been. And I saw, you know, recently, as like last October, where you got to speak at Campbell High School. You just had an event recently where you're educating. How does it feel to be able to do that? And for those that may not know your background in doing that prior.
um, it's great because I think that children in upcoming in the upcoming grade levels, they look at school from a very fragmented perspective. And I assume this too because that's what I did as a kid. And it wasn't until I went to college or you become an adult and you go out to the world and you're just like, wait, so this thing that I learned actually applies to this too. And so being able to tell kids that, you know, when you are reading a comic, you're looking at art, you're looking at color psychology, color theory. You're also looking at philosophy. You're also looking at maybe even aspects of film theory, and being able to help the children connect those dots and see just how far what they're learning and how applicable what they're learning is has been really rewarding for me. And then also just seeing their excitement in general when they talk about like their favorite series and they start to realize how what they learned in school actually can apply to the outside world, especially with pop culture. So
It's amazing. And also, I wanted to talk about some of the goals that you just have, for the Seven Kingdom and for your company as well. Could be long term or short term. I know in terms of RPX, media and work for the Seven Kingdom. I know animation is something that you've mentioned, but I just wanted for you to share like what your goals are personally for what you're doing.
just get better as a storyteller. Just get better as a storyteller, honestly, because this is something that lays the foundation for a lot of other works. And I've even noticed through my gamma reads, when I look at my writing from like what would have been, say, volume 3, and I
Mhm.
compare it to things that are more current, um, I was like, it was like eating chalk. I was like, "Oh, these are rough, man." I was looking at I'm looking at my writing, I'm like, "Oh, that's a big run-on long sentence." "Ooh," it was rough. But I see how I've progressed, though. Being able
Yeah.
to notice that, says a lot about the growth that I've experienced. So my goal has and always will be to continue to get better, to, find something that can improve. And I'm kind of inherently just like that, in the sense of like and almost immediately after I do something, I'm like, all right, this can be better. I need to figure out how. And I'm like sitting here looking at it and flipping it upside down, and so progress.
Definitely. And for your series, I know you got to work with Tiger Sugar. You had like your own pop-up shop. You had like themed drinks for it. So I wanted to ask, what inspired you to create this, like, or get the opportunity for it? And I love like what you did with the pop-up. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. Well, I guess the thought behind it is kind of the same as the having that little extra edge with the secret page token. Give the fans something to engage with, and that creates more of a memorable experience for them, and it incentivizes them constantly leaning in and engaging. And so for me, that was just like pure fun, honestly. So like they have fun, we have fun, everyone has fun, everyone wins. So.
How did you guys go into like figuring out like what drink was compatible with the characters? That was very interesting to me how you guys did that.
Honestly, we legit like flipped a coin, and we looked at this character. We said, mango. All right, cool. This one, strawberry." We very much were just like went down the menu and just like Christmas treat, and we're like, all right, cool. Let's see what we can do.
I love that.
People think it was like really deep and like methodological. I was like, nah.
I think it's probably because like the story itself, between your blogs and like what you shared, about like what goes into it. That's probably why they thought it came to the event.
Yeah, no. I knew that's what it is. It's like thinking so deeply about everything. I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
we're just gonna let fly by the seat of our pants. I'm just like that. I was gonna have to do it.
No, I definitely understand that. There's somebody that overthinks sometimes too. Like some those days when you can just like, I'm just gonna just try something. It's great.
Yes, you have to. It's like it's a balance of ebb and flow. There's meticulous, methodological, and sometimes just improvise. So
Yeah, definitely. And you've also been able to do a few panels. I wanted to talk about like the most recent panel that you did where, for people that wanted to, if they had their own magna, they wanted to write and create. So how was that opportunity for you?
panels are great because I mean, to me, having been a teacher, I feel like it's like being put back in the classroom again. Except you're talking very specifically about this aspect of pop culture, and maybe that's why it kind of just it felt very intuitive. And you're really just putting together a presentation that helps people to solve a problem. A lot of people who tend to want to come to panels, they oftentimes have something they're curious about, some discussion they want to have, some problem they're trying to overcome, and they're trying to get some kind of pointers for it. And so, yeah, it's been nothing but a privilege. I went to I went to one event, and I mean, it varies too, because I've had times where I went to some cons and I barely had two people in the room.
Yeah.
Well, a party of three. I love it. We're gonna do it. And then I've had times where I had 30 people show up, and I like to the extent that when they showed up, I stopped and I was like, are y'all here for someone else? Who's supposed to go after me? Did I run over my time? And they're all, so I'm like rushing through, the rest of it. And I'm like, all right, done. All right. You guys have fun. Enjoy your next panel. And everyone just looked at me.
Yeah.
That was quick. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were just like, we are here for you. And I was like, whoops.
You're like, wait a second.
Yeah. So it varies. I mean,
And yeah, that's definitely amazing. And also, it's just so great to talk about like what you've been doing. And especially I wanted to ask about one thing that was interesting is the story, the Seven Kingdom, and in relation to music. And also, for those that may not know, that you have like a playlist, for different parts of the story. So I wanted you to talk about that, because I mean, some people do talk about like their music inspirations for other things, but I like that you're talking about it for like art and comics, because I feel like as an artist myself, sometimes we do have a playlist sometimes when we're drawing certain things, or certain things inspire us to create. So I just want you to touch on like how you came about sharing like that playlist, or even talking about it.
For me, that was a very inherent thing that I immediately defaulted to, because as a filmmaker, music is part of the storytelling process. When you see films go to film festivals, they'll win awards for Best Picture, they'll win awards for Best Actor, they'll win awards for Best Score, Best Musical Composition. And so for me, immediately, I always think of that, also because I have a background in music, classically trained. I used to play the cello. Played it for 10 years. I was also, when I was in education, that was also what I taught. And so with my knowledge of like music composition, music theory, that my classical training, and then kind of seeing how much more depth and how much more a sense of like dimension music can add to a story. I was compelled to make some kind of a music playlist. And that too is something where, although the reasoning behind why I wanted to start it was very methodological in terms of how the songs were curated, was very much just based on like, I would hear a song and I'd say, oh, this is this character, and I would just add it to the playlist, and kind of just gradually amassing that list. And sometimes it would start off as one list, and then you kind of just let it branch off and make other little ones here and there. And recently, what I did is I let the fans actually tell me like, what do y'all want, and they'll tell you, and you kind of just curate it and then put it together.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and I like that you do share the creative process, or you have like that writing experience to share the creative process. I think it just feels personable, that people can get to know a little bit about just like behind the scenes in your mind of like how you create these things, or how you're trying to improve. I think it helps in terms of like getting the audience to love what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I wanted to ask, how was your Virtuous Con experience?
Oh, Virtuous Con was great. It was not my first time using the platform that they use. I had been on another virtual con that took place in the same platform, and back then I was like thrown in. It was like the same day. Like I hadn't gotten my setup link, and I was like, "Hello, still there?" The guy messaged me, was like, "Oh my god, you're supposed to have and so he like sent me all the links, and like minutes before the virtual con went live, I was setting up my table. And so coming back again, I had a little more time, it was a little more relaxed, you were a little bit more prepared, and kind of just like this was the only con that I could actually go to all of the panels, because you kind of had that shortcut, or like whatever you wanted to use to kind of keep your windows open. And so it was a great experience, because I got to learn a lot, and I also got to interact with a lot of interesting and interested people. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And also, you also have your own organization, Fier Atlanta, and I think that's amazing too because it's an art-based approach to to racial literacy. And I wanted to ask, what inspired you to create this nonprofit, and if you want to share a little bit about the work that you do in the nonprofit.
Mm. So Fire, I was inspired to create it really around the time when George Floyd was killed.
Mm,
And I remember that was, to me, for me, that was the most like that, because a lot of people had been killed before. There were a lot of instances of police
yeah.
brutality.
Mm-hmm.
Yet that one experience, I think it hit a lot more deeply because around that time we had the pandemic, and so people were kind of locked into their houses. There was a shelter in place, and you're connected to the outside world when you open up your phone, you log into the internet, and the first thing you see is this murder that takes place. And for me, seeing some of the discourse that took place around the murder,
Mm-hmm.
seeing some of the invalidation that took place, and seeing some people coming forward and sharing stories,
Yeah.
um, and then feeling inspired to come forward and also share my own personal stories, or stories of other relatives. Like, for example, my father, he worked for a government entity, and he often talked about how Ahmaud Arbery also happened around that time too, and that was another heavy influencing factor. Our
Mm-hmm.
When he would travel across Georgia, the area where Ahmaud Arbery was killed, Dad told me he deliberately avoided that area because he got a weird vibe when he drove through it the first time, and he said no.
Mm-hmm.
The government vehicle, the police still pulled him over and said, "What are you doing around these parts, boy? When are you leaving town? Why are you, with the government vehicle?" It registered
Mm-hmm.
almost like he registered almost like a cop in the system, and they still pulled him over because of what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
So just a lot of different conversations that were being had. I felt it was necessary to kind of just pull people together to focus these conversations, and it was a great experience. We had about 15. We had a team of 15 volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
like at, and they were all from different countries. I've had volunteers from Dubai, from
Mm-hmm.
Russia, from Nigeria, from different parts of the US. And they were all from different walks of life. Some of them were in America when 9/11 happened, and they had experiences and recollections of like what it was like walking down the street and being afraid as a Muslim, people throwing bags of pee at you because of
Mm-hmm.
the vitriol that they carry towards the Muslim community after what happened with 9/11. And that actually happened. One of my volunteers talked about her friends experiencing that. I had volunteers who I had someone who applied to my nonprofit, and his mother was one of the victims of the spa shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I had another volunteer who went to a college where a white student made an anonymous post saying that they were going to shoot every black student on the college campus. And when the professors found
Mm-hmm.
out, said, "So what? Get over it. You still have to come to class. And if you skip class, you're getting an F for the day." Professors didn't care. And the student talked about like how traumatic that was for them. And so we just gave people kind of a space to come together and discuss these things. And oftentimes it ended
Mm-hmm.
up kind of unearthing some really deep feelings for people, but at the same time we had these really beautiful moments. I had one woman, she was
Mm-hmm.
Jewish. She tuned into one of our events online, because we did a lot of events online at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
she talked about how she moved down to the South, and she moved to a town where they had a Confederate parade, and she confronted the
Mm-hmm.
people about the Confederate parade, and she's
Wow.
like, "Why are you celebrating? Y'all lost. Like, what you doing?"
What? What? Oh my god.
And they got so offended that they
Mm-hmm.
started to target her. This is a white Jewish woman, and she said
Mm-hmm.
that her children were being picked on at school. Her husband lost his job, um,
Mm-hmm.
down to like babysitters for their family were being antagonized, and
Mm-hmm.
they had to leave town. And she said,
Wow.
she kind of said, like, when she hears black people talk about their experiences, she
Mm-hmm.
said she can only imagine, because they experienced that just for a few moments, a few days or weeks,
Mm-hmm.
because of her speaking up. Imagine that being your lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we had people break down crying during some of these sessions,
Mm.
and so it was that's a little peek into that.
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate you for finding a way to just be able to bring awareness to that and be able to do it in the way that you do. I know it's not an easy thing, especially for us in the community, but the fact that you had it in your heart to build this so people there's like a space, like a safe space for people to find ways to acknowledge it, but to try to find solutions. That is a great thing, no matter how hard it could be sometimes.
Mm, thank you. Thank you. I felt like if I felt that strongly about it, um,
Hmm.
and my family has only been in America from the 80s, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
first generation American, then what is it like for other people who have been here for generations? And what are other, just like getting everyone, Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson talked about it.
Hmm.
Called it a rainbow coalition.
Yeah.
And how, basically, if we expected to see certain change, then people from all different communities had to be able to come together.
Mm.
Um, and that was essentially what we were doing, but through the arts. So,
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Again, I really do appreciate you doing that. And um, two more questions, and then we'll be good. But the question I ask is usually support, like in our blurred slash Black community, when it comes to supporting our work and what we do. And I ask, what do we do well so far? To continue to support each other and our endeavors. What can we do better to continue doing that? Because this question always is a different answer depending on your own experience, within whatever industry you're in when it comes to this community.
mm. Oh boy. So the age-old response I'd say is give indie storytellers a chance because they're the future. The big companies, and I'm not going to name any names, and it's not necessarily just talking about comics, but in across many different media fields,
Hmm.
companies are running out of ideas.
Hmm.
And because they're running out of ideas, they will oftentimes go to the small spaces, the corners, the nooks, the crannies where the new indie creators are, and they will glean information. And sometimes they kind of pick you up and they want to take you, to new levels. But then sometimes they just want to extract. It's very extractive, right? And so I say there is a lot of value to be found in the smaller creatives as they take time to hone their skills. So the best thing that you can do is one, support them. And that can be sometimes as simple as a share because you sharing is free advertising for them and free advertising for you in a way that it doesn't cost you a cent to share, right? That one share can go the 20 people that look at your story. Maybe you're big shot and you got like 100, I don't know, but whoever is looking at your story is being made aware of this, and that is helping those creatives to show up. And when they show up, that is what helps to facilitate success, longevity, sustenance for them. Um, and then I would say too, in terms of supporting our community, I I would say please be open to different presentations of Blackness. Uh,
Hmm.
as someone who was born and raised here but lived in another country because my parents were
Hmm.
military,
Yeah.
and came back here and was constantly,
Mm.
constantly
Mm.
confronted because I was not American enough and was not Black enough. There are going to be different presentations of Blackness. You may have people who present a character who has vitiligo. They may present a character who's disabled. They may present a character who may be mixed race, maybe light skin, maybe dark skin, maybe a little bit more heavy set, maybe a little bit more model-esque and slender. Except all presentations of characters don't try to berate a character or a creative just because the character doesn't look like they check all the boxes. They don't have to check all the boxes. There's a plethora of creatives who can all check those boxes collectively, right? So I would say be more accepting. And
Mm.
I think part of that, the need to say that also comes from the need for our community to embrace those different presentations of Black. And I think we're doing a better job.
Yeah.
You see like alt communities and like alt goth and alt block, like Black people filling different spaces. So it's there, but sometimes people, and I can tell you a personal experience I had a guy come up to my stand at a convention. I'm not
Hmm.
at a convention, and he
Yeah.
looked at my characters and he looked at the art, and I guess he didn't like what he saw, so he
Mm.
said, "What's this white nonsense?" Yes,
I'm,
and
I'm sorry.
right, that was, I said, you know, and then he proceeded to continue to linger
uh,
as if that wasn't enough. That was strike one. And so,
hmm.
I'm explaining to him, the series, and
Hmm.
he's looking at it and he's like, "Why you talk like that? Where are you from?" And I'm like,
Uh.
and I told him I was from Georgia, and he said, "Oh, he's from Georgia, okay." And he picks up the book and he says, Arabic. I,
Hmm.
I said, you know how people normally say like Chinese or something, you know, like
Yeah, but he said,
like my point is like he had such a one-track minded perspective of like what blackness was supposed to be and how it was supposed to present that like he immediately proceeded to just long story short, I got that man to leave my stand.
Yeah.
I got him to leave. But let's not do that. Let's learn from that. Let's not repeat that.
Yeah, I thank you for that, because that's why I asked this question. I think you're the first one that touched on that part where some people, I mean, even in the community a little bit still, and we do talk about it, is that there's different subsections of the blurred community, and people are different, like into different things in the community. So you're still a blurred, whether it's like you don't just like anime, but you just like comics, or there's other things like D&D and like gaming and like tabletop gaming, or you're alternative, or you're goth, or you happen to be like in a fraternity but you like anime. So sometimes it depends on what exactly are people kind of, and I feel for those that are in the alternative space, they get a lot of flack. They get a lot of flack, especially when they're Black music artists that decide to go into like rock music. Like they're hip hop, but they're also rock, but they're also like, you know, J-pop or whatever. Sometimes, you know, whether it's from our community itself or outside, they're like, are you Black or are you not Black? And yeah, we need to just realize that we all grew up in different areas and grew up differently. We just need to, you know, so we'll figure it out eventually.
We'll get there.
But definitely, I just appreciate having you on. Hopefully, I had a good time. I love learning about everything that you're doing.
Yes. No, this is a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And I just want to give you this time now to just let people know where you want them to follow you and to keep up with everything that you have, because there's a lot of things going on for you right now, you know, between the company and then, you know, Volume 2 is on the way in production. So
so if anyone is interested in learning more about the manga series itself, keeping tabs on it, you can follow us on Instagram at _7th. That's the number 7th _kingdom. On TikTok, it's the 7th Kingdom. No underscores. Or you can go to our my production company's website, which is www.rpxmediaproduction.com/the 7th Kingdom, and that's the number 7th Kingdom. RPX at RPX_media on Instagram. You can see any of our other work that we do when we go back into film as we continue to release publications. And I mean, if you want to know about Fire, Fire has been on a bit of a hiatus lately on this, but we're quietly collecting data because we're going to make a comeback actually very, very soon.
Okay.
And gosh, what is Fire's? Oh, that's horrible. I think is it? Oh gosh, no, this is horrible. I don't remember. Hold on, let me look this up. This is shameful, y'all. That's how much of a hiatus we've been on. Like, I don't even. That's bad.
It's okay.
Let me see. Is it okay? So it is FIER Atlanta. Yeah. So at FIER Atlanta, that is how you can find us and keep tabs on our events. We are planning, like I said, to do more online events. We used to have like sometimes like monthly fireside chats. We used to call them. We talk with professionals, mental health professionals, people related to critical race theory, education. We talk to people at UCLA, talk to a number of different people. And now I'm thinking that since I have a better understanding of like the cosplay community, we may have some like cosplayers come in and talk about their experience. So really, again, it's an arts-based approach to addressing racial literacy and like allyship, and how we can kind of show up for each other, but also allowing that cathartic element too. So if you are someone who loves poetry, if you're someone who loves painting, if you're someone who loves film, you love music, we oftentimes find a way to integrate one or all of those into our sessions. And a lot of people say they're like deeply, I don't like to say healing because in the mental health space and in the scientific space, you have to be careful with saying healed because you have to quantify that. But I will say that people have found it to be a breath of fresh air that they felt they needed. So stay on the horizon for that. And we'll eventually have a Discord server up that people can join and kind of gain access to resources and commune with the community. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for joining the show. I really do appreciate it. For those who may not know what I do, hi, my name is AnimeInkArt. You know, AnimeInkArt started off as, well, I have one of the things that's part of my store. I didn't remember to wear it because we're not near our old art wall, but I, have my art business. I traditionally draw, I digitally edit. It's become a mixed media style. So I'm doing commissions currently. They're open. If you're interested, please go to the AnimeInkArt page where you'll find everything that we do. Commissions, if you want to see the Shopify store and the Redbubble store, see all of the rest of our social media Instagram is the main, but we have Facebook, we have TikTok. If you want to see it, I'm not on TikTok as much, but if you want to see it, it's there as well. Also, we do cosplay as well to promote our stuff, and we've been able to partner with people such as Otaku Noir. We're affiliates with them. They do amazing blurred mystery boxes. We were their cosplay model last year. We were also part of the New World Institute of Magic for one of their characters. We're on the website. They're a wonderful purple, senior. They have their own, like major and everything like that. So if you want to see that, go onto their pages. Use code AnimeInkArt to get free shipping off of your order. We've worked with people such as Blurs Unite. We're still working with them. We gained their opportunity grant to do things creatively for AnimeInkArt. And this is kind of like, I would say newer, but we've been doing it for 3 years now, where we support other creators while doing what we do with our brand as well. We'll started as AnimeInkArt Black Brand Spotlights. We used to highlight somebody on our page, share everything in the stories, direct people to where to go. That's how we were able to build a community, get to know more people. But then we said we need to get over our fear of going live, but we wanted to talk with people and give them a platform to learn more about these creators. And that's how AnimeInkArt Live Talks came to be. And I appreciate the support, even if this was at first an experiment to see if people would want to talk with me, and you guys have wanted to talk with me, so I appreciate it. We'll do another open call soon, but if you're ever interested, we have the form in our bio on AnimeInkArt 1. Join the broadcast channel and also join AnimeInkArt Live Talks. That's a secondary page for the show as well. And I appreciate you guys so much. We'll have another show on Sunday, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.